Hello my favorite people, today I'm going to be checking out part 2 of the World War I series. This is a video called How Did World War I Start? You guys were saying the oversimplified video was maybe a little too simplified, especially with me coming in with basically no knowledge. Hell, I was getting World War II confused with World War I. So again, this is How Did World War I Start? Hopefully it's giving us more detail, more understanding of history, and yeah, I hope you guys like the video. If you do, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Let me know if you want me to continue this history series over on the channel. It won't hurt anyone, and it will definitely benefit me reacting to videos like this so I can learn more history. Let's get to the video. Subscribe, like, check out my other channels, DM me video requests over on Instagram, follow me on Instagram, and here we go into World War I. These lights get so hot sometimes, you guys, you don't even understand the struggle.
It was called the War to End All Wars. Unfortunately, World War I didn't deliver on that promise. It was, however, the first time in the history of planet Earth that nations from around the world fought in a single war. It started with an assassination and a series of questionable decisions. We can point fingers and play the blame game, but really there is no single person or country that holds all of the responsibility.
Actually, I disagree. It was quite clearly Germany and the people who were attacking Austria-Hungary. It was all literally, it started based off of an assumption. What do you mean you can't, maybe you can't blame one certain people for all the fatalities, but the start of the war was based off of two countries, Germany and whoever's underneath Germany. I'm not very good at geography, to be honest, but you can blame them.
Could the war that killed millions have been prevented? Most definitely. Let's take a look at what caused the Great War, explore how it could have been prevented, and learn how to not repeat the mistakes of the past. World War I lasted from 1914 to 1918.
Just 4 years.
It included countries in Europe, Russia, the United States, and countries in the Middle East. The two main sides of the war were the Central Powers, which consisted of Germany, Austria-Hungary, Italy, the Ottoman Empire, and Bulgaria, who fought against the Allied powers of France, Britain, Russia, Portugal, and Japan. Later in the war...
Wait a minute. Portugal coming through. I didn't even know we were like... Nowadays we hate Russia, but it's cool to know that at one point we were on the same side. And I just knew that America and Britain were like teammates in the war. But I didn't know about Portugal, the Philippines, Russia, all these other people who came and helped us out.
Or the United States would also join the side of the Allies.
Allied powers.
But what happened? Why did all of these nations get involved in one of the most disastrous wars in history? Let's explore the mechanisms and missteps that led to the First World War. Although there were many players in World War I, the conflict started with Serbia and Austria-Hungary. The Serbian government was eager to claim more territory for the nation. Serbia was already in a state of aggression due to the Balkan Wars that just ended a year before the start of World War I.
So he basically just said they were up and ready for the smoke with anybody. They didn't care. So yeah, who do we blame for World War I? Freaking Serbia and Germany, period. Germany was just like, I'm ready to fight as soon as Serbia even proposed it. Like, they had no issue with it. So the two aggressors within this entire thing, Serbia and Germany. Let me know if you disagree.
After the Balkan War, Serbian nationalists wanted to liberate the South Slavs of Austria-Hungary, thus unifying the Slavic peoples under one nation.
I think their reasoning made sense, but to actually like start a whole war for it, I think that's a bit much. You know, I can kind of compare it to like the unification of Northern Ireland with the Republic of Ireland.
The extreme nationalism led to the assassination of the Archduke Franz Ferdinand, who was heir to the Austro-Hungarian Empire. At 11:15 a.m. on June 28, 1914, Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie, Duchess of Hohenberg, were shot to death in Sarajevo, Bosnia by Gavrilo Princip.
They got the wife too? That's just savage. But at the same time, why the heck do you have your like prime minister or whatever he is just riding around in a coach car, no cover, no security, and how were they just able to have assassins lining the streets? Like, your security detail was not up to par.
Princip was a Serbian extremist who had connections to a secret society called the Black Hand. The assassination was the match that ignited the First World War. However, there were many other factors that led to the powder keg that would explode.
So, 3 people to blame for this war. The Black Hand, Germany, and Serbia. The Black Hand holds just as much, like, influence in this all as the two countries. Now, that being said, do y'all believe in, like, what's it called? The death penalty? I know there's an official name, but I can't think of it right now. Because in America, those two would be death row.
Should the assassination of Franz Ferdinand have led to
the Russian people?
War? Probably not. There's more to the story here. In the shadows lurked Kaiser Wilhelm II, who may as well be much to blame as Gavrilo Princip in starting World War I. Wilhelm II was the leader of Germany, and he was diabolical. Kaiser Wilhelm II wanted a strong Germany that dominated Europe both economically and militarily in strength.
So, I understand Serbia's perspective. They wanted to unite the Slavs, but Germany just wanted more power and land. Like, but you can't just, I just don't understand, maybe because, like, I'm an American, but how the heck can you just say, I want more land, so I'm going to conquer these people who already have an established country and take their land? First of all, that's what we did in America to the natives. What am I talking about?
He did not want Russia or Great Britain to have more influence and power than he did. Therefore, Wilhelm II allied himself and Germany with Austria-Hungary. He knew that if Austria-Hungary went to war with Serbia, then Russia would come to Serbia's aid. This would drag Russia's ally France into the conflict. We'll examine later why Wilhelm wanted this war to happen so badly.
Oh dang, I thought Russia was our ally. I thought they were on the Allied forces. I guess not. I guess we've had conflict for forever then.
Kaiser Wilhelm II secretly funded Austria-Hungary in their endeavor to suppress Serbia. He allowed Germany to give Austria-Hungary a carte blanche, or blank check. Basically, Germany would fund the war effort using their wealthy economy to ensure Austria-Hungary came out on top. With the assassination of their heir and the backing of Germany, Austria-Hungary felt empowered to start their war with Serbia. They sent Serbia an ultimatum with such harsh terms that it was impossible to accept. There was only one alternative: war. But there was more to the story. The decisions of Austria-Hungary and Germany were clearly geared toward war. It's undeniable that World War I started because of these aggressive decisions, but could the whole conflict have been avoided if other countries had made better decisions?
I'm kind of confused because this guy is basically contradicting the oversimplified guy, the other video he watched. He's saying that it was Germany and Austria-Hungary who were allies and not Germany and Serbia. But the whole reason there was even a Serbia and Austria-Hungary had any issues because Serbia wanted to, like, conquer Austria-Hungary and unite them and make them all Slavs. So which one is it? Was it Germany and Serbia, or was it or was it Germany and Austria-Hungary? And where the heck was Russia? Because I thought they hated everybody.
Were there strings being pulled behind the scenes by the countries on both sides of the war?
Probably.
Let's find out. First, let's take a look at the Triple Entente nations, which consisted
France,
of a
Russia,
secret pact
and
between
Britain.
Great Britain, France, and Russia. Could any of these nations have secretly wanted a world war to heighten their power?
What?
Could there have been a secret plot by the Allies to set up a war they would eventually win? Russia is, and always has been, a large, powerful nation. What could Russia do for the war against the Triple Alliance of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy? At first glance, Russia's role in World War I seems to be based around supporting their ally of Serbia. But as we look closer, it seems that Russia's alliance only played a superficial role in their decisions to go to war.
How do you decide who you're going to, like, team up with? Who is your ally? Like, how does a whole country decide, hey, we're teammates with these people, so now all the people need to fight together? Like, what if I don't like certain people? What if I don't want to? Just because the government says, hey, we're allied now, everybody has to just deal with it.
In fact, Russia barely even tried to find a diplomatic solution to prevent the conflict. Instead, they immediately started to deploy troops and ramp
just
up
ready
military
for war.
production once Austria-Hungary showed aggression towards Serbia. It would seem Russia had no intentions on working out the conflict diplomatically.
Yeah.
History shows it was Russia, not Germany, that mobilized its military first. Russia may have wanted the war to claim more territory and power for the nation. But there was another player on the Triple Entente side who may have played a behind-the-scenes role in starting World War I. France did not make any outwardly aggressive moves in the months that led to the outbreak of war. But they were making secret strategic moves. France may be the only reason that Russia prepared for war in the first place. During talks of what was to be done about the Central Powers, France offered Russia its own blank check. The stipulation was that Russia would help Europeanize the Austrian-Hungary Empire.
Ew. So everybody really does have their own agenda for this war. Some people want power. Some people kind of just want to, like, erase other people's ethnic history and culture and make them more European, which I think is, like, disgusting, trying to change people's ethnicity and race and stuff. So everybody's here bad. I thought, like, the Allied powers really coming in here trying to, like, diffuse the war, stop the war, you know, and the bad guys were just Germany and Serbia. But honestly, everybody has some motive, and they're all bad.
France had an idea of what this part of the world should look like, and rather than entering directly into a conflict, They funded the Russian military to start a war that they could benefit from.
So France is funding Russia. Russia is funding Austria-Hungary. Germany is just like twiddling their little fingers and mustaches, ready to attack anyone. And Serbia doesn't even know what they caused.
France encouraged Russia's aggression toward Austria-Hungary and Germany. French leaders seemed to not like the idea of having a powerful nation of Germany right next door. If Germany was focusing on fighting Russia on the Eastern Front, it would provide France with the opportunity to either protect itself or launch an uncontested invasion into Germany from the Western Front. It would seem that things did not play out exactly as France predicted because of Germany's deployment of troops to fight on both the Russian and French fronts simultaneously.
Dang.
Now, if the shady actions of France leading up to the start of World War I surprised you, then what Great Britain did may shock you even more.
They came in with their powerful navy and just started shooting water at everybody. Because, you know, back in the day, Britain freaking ruled the seas. Their navy was like #1 back in the day.
Was a dominant force in colonization and had control.
Damn. That's y'all's claim to fame. Colonizers. Dang. Why do you have to say that? You know, I was trying to toot you up with your navy, but it is true. Colonization, imperialization. Everybody's bad. Literally everybody.
Of the seas with their powerful navy. Would they benefit from an all-out war in Europe?
Colonization.
Germany was becoming powerful, both economically and militarily. Britain knew that this was a big threat to their empire. In the eyes of Great Britain's leaders, the world wasn't big enough for both a German empire and a British empire.
Like, why is everybody's ego so big? Like, who's to say that? You know how big the continent of Europe is? Like, why can't we all just, or at that time, why did everybody think, if I'm here, you can't be, or I need to be better than you, bigger than you, the size of my empire is my importance? Like, just live peacefully. I don't understand. Like, seriously, war? You would want to go to war over some land. People are weird.
If Germany continued on the path it was headed, Britain's global dominance of the seas and financial system would be threatened and perhaps lost.
Y'all do say now your navy isn't as good as it was back then, but you're still a great nation, so I don't know what this, like, fear was.
This was unacceptable to the leaders.
You see what we do with our military,
These
billions of dollars, for what?
Dominance may have driven Great Britain to stay out of diplomatic talks, and instead encourage Russian aggression. It would seem that at the time, Great Britain had an inferiority complex when it came to Germany. They had failed to mediate during the Balkan Wars, and they refused to mediate during the lead-up to World War I. The thought process...
Whoa. He's trying to... This video is kind of making Great Britain seem like, not like necessarily the bad guy, but kind of like, where were you the entire time? Like, you didn't come in... Like, y'all were saying in the last video, America didn't show up to the last minute, but apparently y'all showed up late as well. This is what I said in one of my other videos, like, don't be so quick to judge when the finger you point at someone else, aka America, there's 3 fingers pointing back at you, aka Britain. So we both showed up late.
This may have been that the more conflicts Germany was a part of, the more
likely better for
they
Britain
would be weakened. Great Britain had clearly won the naval arm race by 1910. It just seemed that it wasn't enough.
Flex your boats!
They were still living in fear of Germany's threats. And it would appear rightfully so, as history showed over the next several decades.
Hitler.
It needs to be said that if Great Britain wanted to prevent war, they should have contributed to the mediation discussions. The fact that they actively avoided the mediation shows Britain might have had other motives, especially if war meant a weakened Germany.
So, I would say by not getting involved in the mediation or trying to defuse the war or this conflict, it's like, I don't really care if a war does happen, I don't care if one doesn't happen. Whatever happens, I'm ready for it. And I can see how you would have motives for both sides. Like, obviously you don't necessarily want a war because, you know, destruction, people dying, all that stuff. And they're probably going to have to help, I would assume, like, rebuild these places. Now, again, we haven't got to World War I, but I assume that America and Britain helped restore Germany, Japan, like, the destruction in the cities, help them rebuild, help them restart their economy, stuff like that. So that's effects of war, but also maybe Britain did want war because, again, it seemed like they were, like, not jealous of Germany, but kind of like, yeah, an inferiority complex. Like, I want to be better than them, and if they go to war and get destroyed and killed, we have the chance of being better than them.
History is written by the victors. Therefore, history textbooks tend to attribute most of, if not all of, the blame for World War I to Austria-Hungary and Germany.
Yeah, and also the Black Hands. I mean, that's true. But what he just said, history is written by the victors. But even, like, who the heck would Germany blame World War I on? Like, what do their history books look like? That would actually be very interesting to see. How do they recount World War I and especially World War II? to their people? How do they educate each other about that? I bet you they probably go the most in depth about it, to be honest. Like over here, all we learned was Hitler, Auschwitz, America came to save the day. How is the story told from a European or even German perspective? That would be amazing to see. But I can't read German, so meh.
You have to wonder who would be blamed if the outcome of the war was reversed. We discussed how the nations of the Triple Entente were by no means free of blame for the start of the conflict, but let's take a closer look at the motives and actions of the Triple Alliance, which was the secret pact between Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy.
I like what he just said there. Sorry I keep pausing, but he said the Triple Entente was just as much to blame as the other people, Italy, Serbia, and Germany, because the Entente didn't stop it. They didn't do anything to stop it. In fact, they kind of just mobilized it by mass production of weapons, getting their forces together, all that, like preparing for war instead of trying to defuse the situation. So that's an interesting way to look at it.
Let's find out if they really are to blame, like so many textbooks say. Other than retaliation, what was Austria-Hungary after? In a word, territory. Austria-Hungary wanted to add more land and people to its already large empire. More land equals more resources and more men for their military. Austria-Hungary had its sights set on Serbia for a while. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand allowed them to perfect the opportunity to make their dreams of taking over Serbian lands a reality. Austria-Hungary's desires were made clear when they offered an obscene ultimatum to Serbia.
So, I was thinking that Serbia attacked Austria-Hungary, but it was Serbia suspected that it was Austria-Hungary that attacked them, but they had no proof. But again, who was the Black Hand related to? I'm assuming Austria-Hungary. So it was, oh my god. This whole time I've been, Austria-Hungary, so weak, so feeble. Everyone's attacking them. No, they're the ones who started it, bitch. They freaking attacked Serbia, trying to get their land. Serbia went to Germany and was like, hey, these people are bullying us. And then Germany's like, tweedle, 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 let's start a war. Then Russia came along because you're like, no, you're not about to attack my homie Austria-Hungary. And then everybody just gets involved, and everybody has their own motives. That's crazy. So really, there's 4 people. The Black Hand, Austria-Hungary, Germany, because they just wanted a war, and Serbia, because they were suspicious. Freaking, what the heck.
The ultimatum itself was delivered on July 23rd, 1914. It required Serbia to accept an Austro-Hungarian inquiry into the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand. The inquiry would be conducted solely by Austro-Hungarian investigators.
Bitch, are you stupid? Why would Serbia agree to that? Literally, you just said, here's my proposition to you. You allow me to cover up the assassination that we caused, and you move on with your life. That's what they literally just said to Serbia. It's freaking dumb.
Serbia also needed to suppress all anti-Austrian propaganda and eliminate any terrorist or extremist organizations within its borders.
So not only are we going to cover up what we did, but you can't retaliate. Do you agree? Like, were these people serious?
The leaders of Austria-Hungary demanded that an answer to the ultimatum be sent within 48 hours.
No,
However,
bitch!
The ambassador to Serbia delivered the ultimatum and immediately
got
left
killed.
the country to return back to Austria-Hungary.
He got killed, probably.
He already knew what was going to happen next. There was no way that Serbia would accept the ultimatum. This meant war. The ultimatum served one purpose. Austria-Hungary knew Serbia would never accept their terms, but they also knew if they attacked without warning, it would make Serbia look like the victim. By sending the ultimatum, it pushed the burden of avoiding war onto the Serbian government. This way, Austria-Hungary created the illusion of giving Serbia a chance to stop the war.
Okay, 2 thoughts. Funny how now, like, we know the plan, but back then they probably thought they were so genius, they're covering up their tracks, like, they're going about this a smart way, they're gonna get the war that they want, but not seem like the cause for it. But now, like, as history shows, we know what the heck they did. And at the same time, I'm like, this little bitty Austria-Hungary, small land, they said they didn't have many people, and they're out here literally playing chess with war in people's lives. At the top of my list for the cause of World War I now is freaking Austria-Hungary.
When they didn't, Serbia would look like the bad guy. But the
Poor
ridiculous ultimatum did not stand up to the test of history, and Austria-Hungary is still seen as the aggressor.
Yeah.
Really, what it came down to was that Austria-Hungary wanted to control more territory in the Balkan region. They needed a reason to go to war with Serbia to
get
secure
their land.
that land, and they found it in the assassination of their Archduke. Was the assassination a reason to conduct an all-out war? Probably not, but it was sufficient enough reason for the Austria-Hungary government at the time.
So Austria-Hungary attacks their people, kills the dude and his wife, then has the audacity to give a fake letter saying basically, gotcha, come play, and thinks they walk out scot-free. Like, I don't understand. What happened to the days where, back in the day, you would literally just cross the border and try to conquer? Like, why'd you have to get everybody else involved? Everybody else had their own motives, but let them be big boys and big girls and do it on their own account. Like, they're playing chess when this could have just been a game of checkers. If Austria-Hungary wanted Serbia's land, Serbia defend yourself, and y'all two go back and forth. Leave everybody else out of it.
However, none of this would have been possible without one key player. And I'm sure you can guess what's coming next. Germany. In the eyes of many historians, Germany is to blame for the First World War. Why was Germany considered the most responsible in a conflict they did not directly start? It's mostly because they alone had the power to stop the war between Austria-Hungary and Serbia. All they needed to do was withdraw their blank check, and Austria-Hungary would not have the financial ability to support a war with Serbia. This would have kept Austria-Hungary in check, and they would have never issued their ultimatum. Germany also knew that if Austria-Hungary went to war with Serbia, Russia and France would both get pulled in. It was almost as if Germany would find a way to declare war on their competitors in the region without doing it themselves.
That is insane. This is literally like, what show is so complex that, like, it's just like a puzzle to figure out? That's insane. Like, these people are wild. Like, that actually all makes so much sense. Obviously, it's diabolical, but it's kind of admirable the way that they thought about all this. Like, they were always 2 steps ahead of everything. That being said, though, freaking Austria-Hungary, the only reason they were bold enough to hand over that stupid letter was because of Germany. Like, if Germany wasn't backing them, they wouldn't have said a single thing. Little bitches. No offense.
Germany could never just outright declare war on the other nations, or they would risk unifying the entire continent of Europe
against freaking Germany, which is what happened in World War II, I assume. We're going to find out.
Against them. But by strategically destabilizing the Balkans, they could goad Russia and therefore France into a war with their ally, thus allowing Germany to start a war to suit their needs. The other reason that Germany wanted war was because it had peaked as a nation. If Germany allowed the rest of Europe to catch up, they would lose power and prestige. This upset no one more than Kaiser Wilhelm II, who was an angry and militaristic autocrat. He believed that he was predestined by God to lead his country to greatness.
Why does every stupid dictator or, like, radical leading a country always want to bring God into it? God chose me. I am the greatest. Like, even Christians do that. Like, their bad behavior, bad morals, bad opinions. Well, I'm a Christian, so it's okay. I'm righteous. Like, leave God out of your nonsense.
He hated diplomats and maintained that the only way to ensure Germany's spot of power was through war. He knew it was now or never if Germany was going to become the predominant world power. When a power-hungry autocrat is in charge of one of the world's most wealthy and armed nations, there's only one outcome: war. In the end, World War I was caused by many different factors and countries. There's not just one person or nation to blame. However, some are more responsible than others. If the leaders of Europe were less hungry for power and more willing to sit down and negotiate, the war could have been avoided. Make no mistake, World War I was not unavoidable, but the leaders in charge saw war as a desirable outcome, or were forced into it by their allies. A situation that would repeat itself again 21 years later.
That's interesting, though, that he says forced into it by your allies, because it's kind of like, if you don't come help me, then I'm against you too now. So literally everybody's hand was kind of just forced into everything.
If you're interested in more...
It's over. That was really interesting. For who do I blame? It's still Austria-Hungary at my #1 spot, but then it also falls on the Germans, Serbia in a way. Well, what did Serbia do other than, like, just question if it was Austria-Hungary who assassinated their king? I mean, I feel like, did they go and get aid from Germany as well? And where was America? They didn't say anything about America this video. Maybe, I don't know what we were doing. What were we doing? In 1918, was that like the rise of, what was going on in America? I don't know. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you liked the video. Look forward to part 2, World War II. And yeah, bye.